Previously on the Skip and Josh podcast.
You know the history of the New England Patriots in this Belichick era. When you're no good anymore, they cut you.
Before you're no good.
Right? Before you're no good, right? And the only player that has survived this philosophy is Brady.
Yeah.
Right? But he's still good, but he's 40.
Yeah.
Right? He's a man. He's 40, right?
He's a man.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Hello?
Cub?
Hey, Skip, what's going on?
How's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
Happy Saturday morning.
Yes, thanks. Same to you.
We woke up to like 3 feet of snow here.
Here, it snowed yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a weird day because in the morning it was plus 12.
Yeah.
And then at night it was like minus 5.
Yeah, we've been going through some extremes too. Let me tell you about some extremes. As you were aware, I had my first business trip of the year this week.
Yeah, you got to go to Florida.
I went to Miami,
Amazing.
and so when I left here, it was minus 22 Celsius for the Canadian listeners, minus 22, and when I arrived in Florida, plus 22.
That's quite a swing.
It's quite a swing, right?
Did you take your parka with you to the airport?
It was a very tricky trip, right? Because obviously I need like a winter jacket and winter boots when I leave my house, right?
Right.
Even hat and gloves and everything. So I actually I park at the airport and I brought my shoes separately in my car. Mm-hmm. And then I changed my shoes in my car after I parked.
Is the parking covered?
Yes, and
Okay.
actually I scored the best parking spot of all time.
How'd you manage that?
Literally right in front of the door. I've never had such... Well, I mean, I guess it's the first week of January. Like, who's going to the airport? So, anyways, enough of my weird parking stories. But yeah, so suffice it to say, I had some guilt this week on that trip because, I always like to post pictures of my trip on Facebook and in social media and stuff like this when I go to cool places. But I felt so guilty that my family is here back at home freezing. All my friends are freezing and here I am in Miami,
Just so you know, your family doesn't follow you on Twitter, so they don't care.
This is true.
They
And
wouldn't even
actually,
know.
Yeah, you're right. They wouldn't even know.
They wouldn't know.
So true. No, you're right. I shouldn't feel guilty then. Next time I'm just going to
Post whatever you want.
post away. So, what's been going on this week in the world of sports?
Well, before we even get to sports,
Yeah.
I've been dying to tell you this for almost 2 weeks now.
Oh,
I started watching a show.
I'm very, very intrigued.
So it's a new show for me,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a new show for anybody else.
Breaking Bad?
I'll get to that in a minute. I'll get to the name of the show in a minute.
Okay.
So I'm already done season 1.
Okay.
I'm halfway through season 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only been 2 weeks. Not even.
So that's a lot of episodes you've watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what is it? Have I seen it? Do I know about it?
You've seen it. You know about it. It's amazing, this show. I've been wanting to watch it for years. And now that I'm watching it, it's actually better than I thought it was going to be.
Oh my God. Okay, so what is it?
Do you want to guess?
Well, I already did. Breaking Bad.
No. Entourage.
You never watched Entourage?
I never watched it till now.
Oh my God. Okay, well, the thing is, what you've seen so far, I don't remember how many seasons there are of Entourage.
I think 9.
5? 9? That many?
I think so.
Okay, so season 1 and 2 are brilliant.
They are.
They're brilliant.
They are.
3 and 4, they're okay, but then there's a certain point in 5, 6, 7, there's a certain point where it just gets to be the same and over and the same stuff over again, and it's the hijinks ensues, and what's Turtle up to, and it's just a little bit too. It got a little bit boring because the novelty of it and the creativity of the first few seasons is amazing, right?
Yeah, it is.
Is he dating Mandy Moore yet?
No.
Oh, okay. So
don't spoil it for me.
No. Okay. So there's great things because there's celebrities that play themselves.
Yes,
right?
that I
she
noticed.
comes on and she's herself, but then there's other people who are playing characters, and you're like, hey, I know that guy, from somewhere else, but he's not playing himself. He's playing some
Scarlett
dude.
Johansson has been on for a brief time.
Yeah.
And Lamar Odom was on an episode.
Yeah, yeah. Mandy has like a part, like she has like a recurring role.
Okay.
But it's such a great show. Oh my god, I used to love those early episodes. They're so funny. Honestly, they're so funny.
Like, you can't let your kids watch this.
No, never. And I guess you've never seen the Entourage movie.
No.
Okay, well, they made the movie after like the show was over, like a year or two after the show finished, to try to like wrap up the thing. And honestly, it was not even a really good. If you're a fan of Entourage, which I was, I liked the movie because it was true to the show, and it was just like one big episode,
Right.
You know, like one long, really big.
It was probably like one season, because the episodes continue during the season.
Yeah. So like the movie, it chronicles, one project that Vince is working on, and everything, and it's like the movie wasn't received well by critics.
No, it never is. Like the X-Files movie also.
About the X-Files. I have something to say about that.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't received well by the critics, but as I think as fans of the show, if you can get through all 9 seasons of Entourage, you should watch the movie after.
Oh, I plan to. I don't know if there's 9. I was just guessing, but I plan to see every episode. And if there's a movie, I'll see the movie also.
Yeah. It's worth watching.
I know if I have time, I'll see the movie.
There's some great episodes. Honestly, there's some great episodes. So you mentioned the X-Files, and I said I wasn't going to watch.
Yeah.
So the first episode was on, and I didn't watch.
Mm-hmm, but you
recorded
recorded
purposely
it.
didn't watch. No, I didn't record it. Nothing. I just banned it. I snubbed it.
So you know what I did? I snubbed her. What do you mean you snubbed her? I walked right by her, never said a word.
And then the other night, I don't know, I was home and I was flipping through the channels and nothing was on. And then all of a sudden X-Files was on. And I'm like, oh, I'll start watching this. I got sucked into it.
I'm not surprised.
It actually was pretty good. So I might have to go rewatch that first one that I missed and then maybe continue with the rest. I don't know. We'll see. So this is a TV episode now, I guess. Our episode.
Well,
episode 75, the TV episode.
This is I'm done with my TV stuff unless you have more TV stuff to talk about.
I started watching Cardinal, as you know, was like one of my top shows of last year.
I've seen so many commercials for that.
Well, because if you watch any CTV property, which you do because you watch
football.
TSN, right? They show commercials for Cardinal every 16 seconds,
yes,
right?
I've seen so many commercials for that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. My wife's watching with me, and she's into it also. But I like the first season better, I think. Anyways, on to sports.
Sure. Yes.
There's something on my mind.
Me too. This is we need to bring a segment back that we haven't done in a long time.
What bugs me?
Yeah, because there's
We
something
haven't done it in so long.
There's something that's bugging me, except it's not a new thing; it's an old thing.
You're getting me, boy. Are you bugging me, man? I'm gonna nail. Ooh, God. I'm getting bugged now. Whoa, man.
Please, and if this is what's written down on my list right now, this will be crazy. But I have a feeling we're going in the same direction.
I think so.
Please go ahead.
So what it is in case no one knew, as of a week ago, it's now time for bye weeks in the NHL.
Oh my God! Listen to this. I'm holding this up. Can you see? Wait, can you see?
Yeah, I see NHL bye week.
It's the first thing on my list.
Yeah.
God damn it! I hate this stupid bye week.
So I didn't like it last year, and I don't like it this year either.
I hate it.
Although I did some research, they changed it. Do you know that they changed it?
I honestly I can't keep up with what they.
So just so the listeners are educated, last year the way it happened was there'd be like 4 or 6 teams that had a bye week in a given week, and it'd be staggered over the course of like 2 months, between like January and February.
Right.
This year, what they did is half the league had a bye week from like January 6th to like today, roughly, or maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the league, the other half of the league, their bye week starts like Monday and goes for the next 5 or 6 or 7 days or whatever, depending. Some people have a longer bye week. Some teams have a longer bye week than others. So basically they're getting rid of all their bye weeks in a span of like 2 weeks in January.
Now, can I ask you, why does it bother you? I know why it bothers me. And
it bothers me for 2 reasons.
Okay.
First of all, it bothers me because
they don't need a break.
These guys are playing hockey. You don't need a break. They've never had a bye week up until last year. They've never had a bye week before. And last year, or what there was what was it 1 year that they did it because of the Olympics or something? I don't even know. I don't even know oh no, sorry. Last year they had the World Cup of Hockey, so the season started later. So I guess they figured they wanted to have a break for the guys who had played in the World Cup of Hockey and
the
might
Players
be tired.
Association that only agreed to do the World Cup of Hockey if they would get this bye week. It was like a concession.
What the thing was, they said they would agree to do the 3-on-3 All-Star format.
Oh, yes.
If they got a bye week. So this
Right.
is the second thing that bothers me. What does one have to do to the other? Like, what? So if we don't give you a bye week, you're not going to play 3-on-3 at the All-Star game? You're only going to play 5-on-5? How does that even... What is the correlation there? I don't get
And
that.
that's not even the whole league. It's only like a handful of players at the All-Star game in the first place. Right?
Anyway, so they don't need a bye week, and especially like this year, they're not taking like a break for the Olympics or anything like that. Yeah. They have their All-Star break that's coming up at the end of this month.
Yeah, I have problems with that too.
Anyway, so
okay, so you want to know why it bothers me?
Please.
Things that bug me?
So like I feel like there's the feeling behind the bye week, although no one's come out and said it, is that it's like about player safety. It's like they need a rest, like they need to recharge their batteries, whatever. I know I see you rolling your eyes, but like I agree, like it's nonsense, right? But now the problem is, so they've had a week off, right? I'm talking about only from the Canadians' point of view because I don't know the other team's schedules like on the back of my hand like I do the Habs. Mm-hmm. So the Habs had a week off, right? But you know what happens now? They have 5 games in 9 days.
Right. To make up for it.
So they have a week off, but then it's worse. That's like in your job if you take a month off, right? And then you don't read any emails while you're on vacation, and then you come back and you have 6,000 unread emails, and the first 3 days of your of returning back from your vacation, you just want to quit, right?
Absolutely.
Which happens to like I think this is a normal thing that happens to people, right? But like you get overwhelmed. Like that's what's going to happen to the Habs now. They want to rest their guys, and now they're going to play like crazy.
The point is that you have from October to April, you have to play 81 games, or is it 82 games? 82 games.
82, yeah.
So whether you have a week off in between or not, you still have to play the same number of games. And if you take that week off, then you have to cram all those games into a shorter period of time.
Yeah, that's it. All right, I'm glad we returned. I'm glad the What Bugs Me segment made a triumphant return.
Yes, unfortunately, it wasn't a new thing, but yes.
Yeah. And I know, so another thing that bothers me actually is the whole NHL All-Star game. It's so like, does anybody care about it?
Well, I don't.
I don't either. And I don't feel like the average hockey fan, I think in Canada, I'm going to speak for Canadian fans, I don't think anybody cares. I think the All-Star game is really for markets in the United States where hockey's not as popular, and they're thinking that this game is going to be some kind of showcase, which it's not, because they're not even playing the same game as they do during the regular season, right? It's
like the NBA. It's like the NBA All-Star game. That game ends up being 150 to 148.
I know, but at least they're playing 5 versus 5.
That's true.
Right? I mean, they're not trying. They're not playing defense, but there are 5 guys on the court versus 5 guys on the court. The All-Star game in the NHL is just, it's 3-on-3. It's I don't know. It's great. I love 3-on-3 hockey. It's fun to watch and everything, but, that's a different sport, right?
Yeah, hockey and basketball and football All-Star games are terrible.
Well, no, the football All-Star game is the worst. Let's be clear.
The only good one is baseball because you can actually it's a real life situation. You have a pitcher against a batter, which you would in a regular game.
Yeah, because
both of them are trying.
Yeah, both of them are trying because there's no reason not to try, right?
Right.
Like, yeah. So I don't know. I won't watch the NHL All-Star game. And like speaking again from a Habs point of view, Carey Price is in the All-Star game. And that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, when they announced the team, I was trying to figure out who would be the one Canadian player on the team, the one Montreal Canadian on the team. And I couldn't think of who it would be. And then I heard that it was Carey Price. I'm like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense because who else would you pick?
It should be Brendan Gallagher if there's another choice, I guess.
Even over Galchenyuk?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But the thing is like it's by division, right? So the Atlantic Division, and there's only how many forwards did they pick in the Atlantic Division? 6, right?
Well, every
It's like
division
six
only has
forwards,
6, right?
I know, it's like 6 forwards, 3 defense, 2 goalies. That's the whole team, right? It's tough for Brendan Gallagher to come in and bump out like Steven Stamkos
Or
like,
any of the Tampa Bay guys.
So, Gallagher can't squeeze out like these real star forwards from the Atlantic Division that got picked ahead of him. But I kind of feel bad for the goalies in the Atlantic Division because Carey Price sucks. He's not having I don't want to say he sucks, but he's not having a good year. He's not an all-star. His numbers are not good. So all the goalies in the rest of the Atlantic Division, none of them were better. I mean, I know Ottawa's goalies can't stop anything, right? Boston has been using different guys, although they got hot now. But so I kind of feel bad for the rest of those goalies, like they didn't get a fair shake.
Is there a rule that you have to have one player from
Yes.
each team?
There
because
is.
one year they took away that rule 1 year.
They did, but there is supposed to be, there has to be one player from every team. So that's where it gets tricky. You have to have someone from the Habs. So it's either Price or...
Well, as you
who-
said,
who,
Gallagher,
right?
unless there's a defenseman that's
So,
having a good
and-
season on the team.
There isn't.
So then,
What, are you going to put Joe Morrow?
I hope not.
Yeah, Joe Morrow, Carl Alsner. I've said this list every episode. I don't want to say the list again.
You just made the list!
So if you sort stats, points, NHL players in the Atlantic Division, just
Yeah.
forwards, and you look at the top 6, so the guys who should be on the All-Star team, you have Nikita Kucherov, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Huberdeau, Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, Vincent Trocheck.
So the guys that were picked that are out of the top 6 in scoring is Austin Matthews. He's been injured, right? Brad Marchand, which I'm...
Well, actually, he's only
surprised.
a point behind. Like, he's 7th.
Yeah, and Alexander Barkov. Yeah, I know. Gallagher would have to knock one of these guys out, which is totally unfair. It's much more fair for Carey Price to knock out Freddie Anderson, right? I wanted to leave this for the end, but since we're talking about hockey, I'd like to bring it in now. I want to do listener mail every episode. I think we should do it every episode, right? And when I say mail, I mean it could be any kind of social media interaction, right, or anything. So
Right. They could be an email. It could be a tweet. It could be a Facebook comment.
Yeah.
Anything.
We're the only show presently in production that cares enough about you, the North American home viewer, to answer our viewer mail on the air.
So we got a Twitter comment this week from Vince Opetisano.
Yes, I know
You
Vince.
know him, right? He said, at Skip and Josh blaming Anderson for the Leafs' last stretch of bad games is so objectively wrong. I'm sending at Joseph video to see him and make sure he's not suffering from concussion-like symptoms.
Well, I'm going to see at Joseph Video. I'm going to see him this afternoon.
Yeah, so Joseph Video is Joe, friend of the show, Joe, who works for the Sabres, right?
And Vince, I don't think I was saying that Frederik Andersen is the sole reason for the Leafs' recent struggles. What I was saying is that Frederik Andersen in the last 3 weeks, let's say, hasn't played as well as he did in the first 2-3 months of the season. That's all I was saying.
Okay, there you go. And it's not like the Leafs are like falling off the face of the earth and out of a playoff spot. They're still a good team. It's just that I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I said this at the end of last year, and I said this at the beginning of this year. The expectations on the Leafs are increased. The expectations are higher, right? So, yeah, they're having a good year, but they're having around the same year as they did last year in terms of points, right? And while the points that they got last year was terrific, everyone was happy with their record. And now they have the same record this year, and everyone's unhappy because they have, the expectations are that the Leafs are supposed to be this juggernaut. And maybe they will become this big juggernaut that's going to take the league by storm. But these are all very young players, and sometimes it takes time, and sometimes the league figures you out, and sometimes other teams make adjustments, and sometimes there's injuries. And, wait, let's have this conversation in the playoffs, and let's see how they do, right? Because the playoffs is almost like a whole different ball game, right?
It is a completely
Yeah,
different
yeah.
game. And by the way, just to let people know, so Toronto was like firmly in second place in the Atlantic for a while. Boston has now
Boston's
passed them.
hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Boston has 5 games in hand on Toronto.
Yeah. Now, 5 games in hand you think is an advantage, which of course it is, because you could say they're going to pick up the points. But 5 games in hand is a lot of games. And that means they're playing 5 games in a short period of time, right? So there's going to be back-to-backs in there. The schedule is tough for those 5 games, right?
Of course.
I always look at those games in hand, but like, oh my God, that could be 10 points, but probably not,
And by the way, Leaf fans need not worry. So they've got a total of 53 points at this point in the season, which is actually nothing to, cry about. Defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins have only 47 points this year.
They're in trouble, actually, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Everybody was waiting this whole first half for them to sort of wake up and make their move. And it may be, there's going to be a certain point where it's going to be too late because, that Metropolitan Division is stacked, right? And
I think they're going to, they have the advantage of the wild card.
They do, but there's no guarantee they're going to be
the two wild card teams are going to come from the Metropolitan.
But I mean, there's no guarantee they're going to make the playoffs right now. They're, it's a struggle.
No, there's no
It's
guarantee.
a big struggle,
One thing I wanted to talk about, I don't know why I looked this up this week.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't jokes. These are thoughts. These are things that make you say.
Obviously, if I mention the name Wayne Gretzky, most people will say he's the greatest player of all time in the NHL. Certainly I would.
I subscribe to that point of view.
So I was looking back at his career stats for some strange reason this week, and obviously he had a phenomenal career. But what I didn't even realize is that in his last season that he played, which by the way was 1999.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. In his last season, do you know how many points he had? Do you know how many goals he scored? Do you know what his plus minus was in his last season?
No. How many games did he play that last season?
He played 70 games.
I think he only had like 50 points.
I think he had like 50 assists.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere around there. But he scored only 9 goals that entire season.
There you go.
And he was minus 23.
That's why he retired.
That is exactly why he retired.
Right?
But like if you had said to me, oh, Gretzky had a lousy year in his last year, I would have been like, no, he didn't have any bad years. I would have said,
that was
without looking it up.
That was the end of the road, right?
So it's just interesting that I didn't even realize how bad a season he actually
These
had.
are things that keep you up at night. Wayne Gretzky's career stats.
No. Just I thought I would look it up.
Do you want to move to the NFL?
Please, let's do that.
We talked about the playoffs last week. I was thinking about this NFL segment that we did last week and what we're about to do now.
Mm-hmm.
And it puts us in a precarious position, right? Me and you personally, because we're talking about games that are about to happen today and tomorrow, and by the time we release this episode, all or most of the games will have been played, right? Or at least some of them will have been played, which was the case last week too, right? So like our thoughts of the games and our kind of predictions or whatever, it's out there for the whole world to hear, good or bad, right? Like,
we won't even talk about today's games. We'll talk about last week.
We can't talk about just last week's without looking ahead, right? But we're putting ourselves on a limb, which is great. So, whether we're right or wrong or whatever it is, like that's the way it is. So what did you think about last week's games? I mean,
okay, so first thing I want to mention is the that play by Marcus Mariota where he threw it got deflected, It came back to him, and he scored.
Fantastic.
It looked to me like he had crossed the line of scrimmage.
I looked at it many, many times. On the first, when I saw the play happening live, I was like, oh my God, he crossed the line. And then when I saw the first replay, I thought maybe he did also. But after watching the replay several times, I think he was right at the line.
So that was pretty crazy. I can't believe the Chiefs blew it.
Do you think Andy Reid will get fired?
No, because I think if he was, it would have happened already.
I guess you're right because, why wait? But, I mean...
I don't even think it's his fault, really.
Well, I
think they just blew it.
They blew it, but, I mean, he's the coach, right? He's responsible, And...
But what would you have done differently?
They need to run the ball. They had success running the ball, and then they just went away from it. Andy Reid gets really like...
But didn't Kelsey get injured, and that's when it started to turn around?
Of course, Kelsey is very important for them, but even more reason to run the ball. But like, I find that Andy Reid, he gets very like...
he likes to do trickery.
Yeah, he gets all excited about the trick plays, right? And then that's all they do is misdirection, a fake reverses, double fake reverses. And I know you have this really dynamic player in Tyreek Hill that you want to get the ball to him in all these situations, but there's a reason why they call them tricks, because like there's high risk in those plays, that those plays don't always work. And I just feel like they needed to play a little bit tougher. Basically, the Titans won the game because they're tougher. They dominated the line of scrimmage, both of them, and they played very, very. They were a more resilient team, and they came out on top. And then obviously that Mariota play, which is like once in a lifetime, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, look, I don't like the Chiefs. I don't like the Titans. I don't think the Titans are going anywhere this week. The Titans got to play the Patriots. Woo! Right? So
yeah, the Titans don't have a chance.
No,
they don't have a prayer.
I mean, and the Falcons-Rams. I mean, everybody's excited about the Falcons right now because they beat the Rams. They should, which they should be. But I'm still not sold on the Falcons, and neither are you. I know you're not.
I was surprised that the Falcons won, and obviously, if Carson Wentz was not injured, I wouldn't give the Falcons a prayer in this game either. But you know better than I because you're a Philadelphia Eagle household.
I'm going to put myself on the line here and tell you that the Eagles are going to beat the Falcons today, and they're going to physically dominate them. I think they're going to dominate the defensive line of scrimmage, and their offensive line is going to dominate when they're on the field. They're going to run the ball like crazy. And I think Matt Ryan's going to see pressure on him that he's never encountered before. He's going to they're going to make him very uncomfortable. And I think the Eagles are going to come out on top. I don't know if Nick Foles has to do that much. I don't know what he's going to do or not do, but I think the Eagles are going to win today. And no one's giving them a chance. And you know why? Because the Falcons won last week, right? The Falcons won last week. So everybody's all excited about the Falcons, right?
And also Wentz is injured.
Yeah, of course Wentz is injured. But
and what did Foles do in the 3 or 4 games that he played after the injury?
He did well when he came in the game that Wentz got injured. He did well the next game, but then the last 2 he was terrible. Mm-hmm. But those last 2 games.
Did he play in the last game? That 6-3 game against Dallas.
He did play part of the game, not the whole game. But
who's their other QB?
Nate Sudfeld.
Okay.
Might be pronouncing that wrong. I'm not good with names. But yeah, some guy you've never heard of, basically. But I think the Eagles are not getting a lot of respect for the season they had. And everyone's just looking at Wentz, and I really think they have a good chance against the Falcons. And I think they have a good chance next week either against the Saints or the Vikings, to be honest.
So you already have the Eagles moving on to next week?
I think they can make it to the Super Bowl. I don't think they can win the Super Bowl because I think either the Steelers or the Patriots are much too strong, right?
Mm-hmm. I've never been more sure of 2 games this week than I am about the Patriots and the Steelers.
I agree. I mean, look, first of all, the Patriots against the Titans, I don't even what are you going to say about that game, right? I mean,
and the Patriots are going to cover, by the way. Whatever, the spread I think has increased during the week. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to keep that game close, I think.
Well, the Jaguars defense is very strong. So yes, they can keep it close. But, the Jaguars defense dominated the game last week, but that was against Tyrod Taylor and the Bills, right?
Of course.
Like Tyrod Taylor is, borderline NFL quarterback, just like Blake Bortles is for their team,
Although, I've heard so much of that this week about Bortles and Taylor being awful quarterbacks.
They are.
But you know what? They might be awful quarterbacks, but let me tell you something. Bortles and Taylor might be awful quarterbacks, but they are 2 of the top 30 quarterbacks in the league.
Yes.
And they are actually probably in the top 20 in the league.
Yeah, there might be worse than them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So as bad as you think they are, there are at least 10 starting quarterbacks that are worse than them.
Well, the thing with Blake Bortles is he gets so much shade thrown at him because the Jaguars are such a good team that if they had even a little bit better play from their quarterback, think about how good they could be, right? So it's more of an indictment on the organization for sticking with him than actually Blake Bortles himself, right? It's more the saying like, why are they using this guy? I mean, I understand they don't have anybody else, but like this is something they need to address, right? Because they've assembled such a good team, and now like your most important position is kind of like, okay, what are we gonna do here, Yeah, and I guess you feel
there aren't that many quarterbacks out there to go get.
No. Oh no, yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, I want to segue to the Vikings. Like, look at Case Keenum. He came out of nowhere, right? This is a guy that I was making fun of earlier in the year by saying he's one of the starting quarterbacks in the league. And I don't know if it's like the system they put him in or the plays that he's running or all of a sudden he got confidence after a few wins, but Case Keenum is like pretty good, right?
He's not bad. I mean, listen, he's done the job.
Yeah.
There were even rumors when Teddy Bridgewater was healthy that he'd come back and start. That didn't happen.
No, they're not going to do that. They're on such a roll, right? So.
Right. So, but I mean, has he even played a playoff game in his life?
I don't think so.
So I don't know what makes anyone think that he's going to be able to succeed this weekend.
Yeah. So look, I've said like I think the Eagles are going to win, and then we both agree. Well, what do you think? You think the Falcons are going to win?
I actually have picked the Eagles in my pool.
Okay, there you go. That says a lot.
But I'm not confident about that pick.
No, I mean, look, it is going to be a good game. I hope.
And I've also picked Minnesota in my pool, but I'm not confident about that one either.
Right. And I mean, oh, you did pick Minnesota. That's where I was going. So we both agree Patriots. We both agree Steelers. And then now you pick the Vikings.
I have picked them. Yes.
I find it hard to. I would go with the Saints. I think they're a more balanced team. But I don't know. Like, I guess it's going to be a good game.
For sure. They have Drew Brees, who's won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think their running game is great. They've got good players at the skill positions. Their defense is underrated. I guess we'll see. You know, like it's probably one or two plays that's going to decide that game, a turnover or a special teams play.
That could be the best game of the week.
Yeah, I can't wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow's a great day in sports, by the way. Can I tell you why? You have the Jags Steelers at 1, and then you have the Saints Vikings at 4. But the best game of the day is actually at 11 a.m. Liverpool versus Manchester City.
Oh, my goodness. Not at all what I was expecting to hear.
Actually, I'm really looking forward to that game. So,
okay.
Shout out
to
all the soccer fans out there.
Can you explain something to me?
Yeah. Maybe.
So, you follow college football.
Loosely, yeah. Yeah.
You know who won the Heisman Trophy? It was Baker Mayfield, was it not?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Okay. So, to me, that means that he was the best college player this past year.
Correct, yes.
Yet, when you hear people talking about how the draft is going to go in the NFL this spring, and like who's going to be picked where and whatever, he's not even mentioned as one of the top 2 quarterbacks that are going to be picked in the draft.
Yeah, because the Heisman Trophy is true to what it is. It's the best player in college football. But just because you're the best player in college football doesn't mean you're going to translate to the NFL, like especially for quarterbacks.
Okay, so but what makes people think that those other 2 quarterbacks, I think one is Rosen on UCLA, and I don't even know the other guy's name.
Sam Darnold.
Possibly.
Yeah.
What makes people think that they will translate to the NFL? I don't know.
It's more the shortcomings of Mayfield. I think, look, rightly or wrongly, like, you know, I've said it many times on our show. Like, I think the way that NFL quarterbacks are scouted is completely flawed. It has been for many years, and the scouts don't even, like, organizations can't even see it. It's so right in front of them that they can't even see it. So the knock on Baker Mayfield is that he's only 5'10", or 5'11", whatever. He's not tall enough, right?
Okay, so it's like another Johnny Manziel.
Yeah. But you know what? Drew Brees is the same size, and he's going to the Hall of Fame.
But those guys don't come along.
They don't
every year.
But he just needs to get into an organization that is willing to accept the fact that he's not tall, and like tailor their team around that, and because he has a lot of other tools. And I've always said, and I've said this on the show before, and I'll repeat myself again. The most important thing about a quarterback in the NFL, it's not how tall you are, it's not how fast you are, it's not how hard you can throw the ball, it's not how far you can throw the ball. All that is important, right? You can't ignore these things. Obviously, you have to be physically skilled. The most important thing for a quarterback is decision making. What do you do when there are linemen's coming to try to kill you? You know, do you throw the ball for an interception, or do you like throw it away, or are you able to make a play? Like, these are the things that make a quarterback, you know, and it's also reading the defense. You know, like, what's your kind of football IQ? These are all important factors, and I think Baker Mayfield has all that. You know, he seems to be an ultimate competitor. You know, there's no doubt about it. I think he rubs people the wrong way because he's a bit of a I don't want to say a hothead, but he's very maybe too passionate on the field, on the sidelines, too rah, like, which is stupid, right? Like, why is that bad, right? But I don't know.
You know, another small QB who had a little bit of success in the NFL, Doug Flutie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, he ripped up the CFL, but
Of
Doug
course.
Flutie was really small.
And he wasn't bad.
No, he was fine, but like he's really small. Like
Yeah.
that's like extreme small. Like it's not just like he's a couple of inches too small, right? But I don't know. I hope you know, when you look back at the Heisman trophies, not all those guys went on to have great NFL careers. You know,
You're right.
right?
I have another question about NCAA football. So Alabama, every year they have a fantastic team.
Yeah.
For the last decade, you could say that they've been the best team. Every year, you could say that they've been the best
they
team.
won 5 out of 9 years or something, right?
Right,
So,
right. And in the years that they didn't win, you could argue that they were the best team, even though they didn't win.
Yeah, they never had a good quarterback in all those years. Really.
This is what I was going to ask you. They are able to recruit. They are able to get whatever player they want because every single high school kid wants to play for Alabama. It doesn't matter where they grew up in the country.
Yeah.
So explain to me how they're able to get all these amazing players and yet they never have a good quarterback. Explain that to me.
I think they have a good quarterback. Maybe it doesn't translate after a while. I think A.J. McCarron had a fantastic college career, and he still might be decent. He never got his chance in the NFL. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like why didn't they try to go get like Rosen, right? Or like these big QB prospects, right? But you don't know. Things develop over time. You know, Carson Wentz, you know, played Division II, right?
Yeah.
That means like a bunch of other schools didn't want him, right?
This is why the draft is a crapshoot.
For sure. Definitely. No doubt about it. I'm going to try to go dig myself out of my the snowstorm that we're having here.
I'm going to go call my parents, make sure they're okay.
And then I'm going to sit down and watch some NFL football
Sounds like a great day.
this afternoon. I'm excited about that. So before we sign off, remember you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play. You know that I love an app called Overcast, which is awesome. So if you're not happy with the update to the Apple Podcast app, definitely check out Overcast. And if you do listen through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. And you can email us, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can send us a tweet at skipandjosh, or you can go and like our Facebook page. And as always, if you go to our website, skipandjosh.com, it has all the links to everything that I just said. And like I did say before, I think we're going to try to incorporate at least one listener mail feedback, tweet, comment, like every week, right?
Great. I love it. Keep the comments coming.
All right. Talk to you next week.
All right. Have a good week.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.